Hello everyone and welcome to another video on my channel. In this one I'm going to show you the guide for the round 1 of the Nations GTWS 2026 official season, and the combo I'm going to be showing you is at the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and we are in this new Gran Turismo F3500-B. Well, not new, but relatively new. Anyway, so what I'm going to be showing you in this video is, first of all, I'm going to talk through the race settings, then I'm going to show you a dry lap, my fastest dry lap, followed by, for reference, a detailed lap of that lap. Then I'm going to show you a wet lap, and then I'm going to go through that wet lap as well. Then I'm going to finish it off showing the first 7 or 8 laps of what the time trial conditions look like. So without further ado, let's get into this video, and I would greatly appreciate a like and a sub if you like these sort of videos and want to see more in the future. But anyway, let's get into it. So the race settings, as you can see here, is 15 laps, 16 cars. It is a rolling start. Since it's the original Spa track, that means that 9th and below will start somewhere in the chicane, I believe. It's somewhere on 9th anyway. So make sure you try to qualify in the top 8 at least. Hopefully I can try to help you start towards the front of the grid. But anyway, the qualifying time is 6 minutes, so a dry lap is around 1 minute 50, 1 minute 51 laps. So if you get out the pits early, you should be able to fit in 3 flying laps. But for some, it may be only 2 flying laps, depending on when you exit the pits, etc. The fuel for qualifying is off, but in the race, there is 1 times fuel. For tyre wear, there is ×1 in both qualifying and the race. The useful tyres is racing hards, inters, and wets, and you may see all these tyres during the slot, so make sure you've got every tyre. In case you don't, you can just buy the tyres here. Racing hards, inters, and wets. No wide body, no nitrous, and of course, like I already mentioned, we can only use this F1 sort of car here. The BOP is on a high speed. And we are allowed to change the brake balance in this car only. DR and SR is affected, there's light mechanical damage. You don't have to make a pit stop, and the track limits is on normal, but you do get a small penalty for quitting track limits. For all collision penalties off, other cars collision penalty is of course on, so don't go ramming into people. And last but not least, pit lane line cutting penalties on. However, we shouldn't need to worry about that because there's no mandatory pit stop, so you shouldn't have to pit. But yeah, anyway, now I'm going to go through my fastest dry lap that I've done, followed by a detailed lap of that afterwards. So cheers guys, and hopefully this helps. Any questions, put them in the comments below, and I'll answer to the best of my ability. See you soon guys. Alrighty guys, so hopefully you just enjoyed the fast stuff I've shown you. Now I'm going to go and show you how I did that. This car is I would say it's very difficult to find good pace out of, especially out of the slow speed corners. And in the fast speed corners as well, actually, because in the slow speed corners you need to be very precise with the throttle inputs, and in the fast corners you just need insane reaction times to hit the apexes and that. Which is where I tend to struggle a bit in high downforce cars in general. But anyway, let's get into this lap. So, first corner. This is 100 marker. I'm braking about half a car length after this 100 marker. In fact, I'm braking about now. This 100 marker is actually a perfect reference. I think I could brake a touch later, but basically as the 100 leaves your screen, that's when you want to start braking. You want to brake in a straight line, and you want to try and just clip the inside curb, the yellow and red part of the curb anyway, just so that you have a good angle out of the corner. Because if you were to use more of the curb, in my opinion and from my experience, you just don't have a good angle out of the corner and you just lose time on the exit. So brake in a straight line, get your right tyres to just clip the red and yellow curb, and the first apex speed you want to take about 40 miles per hour. Look at the throttle, staying at about 80 to 90%. Because if you put any more than that, it just will spin a lot. So you have to find the point where you've got 80% throttle input, 80 to 90% anyway. Admit it, if you're up to get used to just play around with it, you'll get there. This corner coming up. On this particular lap, I did mess it up a bit, but I broke about a car length after the beginning of this curve. So I broke about any second. I did get a bit deep here, to be fair. There you go. I'll say a good car length, maybe. Yeah, I'll say a car length after the beginning of the curve. As you're about to say, I go a touch deep in. But the minimum apex speed you want to carry this corner is about 85, 86 miles per hour from memory. High 80s anyway. Try get your right tyres to clip onto the red and yellow part of the curb again without touching the inside bollards. This car's quite wide, as you can see, so just be careful, since in bump cam, the reference points with where your edge of the tyres is may be a bit different compared to your average Group 3 car, etc. But anyway, first apex you want to take about 86, 87 miles per hour. As you can see, I am about half a car width too wide. As soon as you get towards the entry of this corner, that's when you start to turn to the left. So as you can see, I'm still turning right, but I'm about to start to turn to the left, and all I really do is just lift. Maybe a touch of trail braking, depending on how much speed I carried from the previous corner. But for this corner, I'm aiming to be about 80 miles per hour apex speed here. Again, be careful on the throttle, especially since you're still turning. Get as far over to the left as possible. Try not to touch the outside curb, because you just start to understeer a bit wide as you turn in my opinion, and you just having to cover more distance basically. So I prefer not to go all the way to the outside personally. But for this next corner, I think the apex speed was about 105 miles per hour from memory. Yeah, 105, 106 miles per hour. Exiting fourth. This corner, I'm braking just as this curb appears. I'm braking a touch before I get to it. As you can see now, I've just started to brake in fact. You want to do this corner in sort of like a V shape. So you want to try and not clip the first apex, but you want to be close to it. Go a touch deep in, let the car rotate, and then pick up the throttle as the car starts to grip up. The minimum apex speed for this corner, I was taking about 62 miles per hour from memory. Just before you get to this red part of this wall, that is when I start to brake. So in fact, I just start to brake now. And again, try and get as close to the board as possible without touching it. The minimum apex speed for this corner, I think it was about, on this lap it was about 98, but you can carry about 100 miles per hour into this corner. And you want to exit in 4th gear again. Be careful of wheel spin, so just be ready to catch your car. This corner, I did go a bit wide here, but I broke a bit after this marshal here. Not this marshal, but the cameraman here. In fact, let me go forward. I'm a bit too wide here. You don't want to go. In fact, I'm even touching the grass. That's probably why I understood a bit wide, but try not go on the grass, guys. It's a bit bumpy on the edges of this curb as well, so try not to take too much entry curb here. But anyway, for this corner, I started to brake right here. So as the last cameraman leaves the screen, that's when I broke. And the minimum apex speed you want to take this corner is about 148 miles per hour here. And you want to be in 5th gear here. Downshift to 4th to engine brake, I did miss it. I think I did downshift too early, so that it didn't register my downshift. Because I do remember the double tap in the square, but it didn't downshift. Probably because I was taking too much speed. But anyway. This corner I'm braking at basically the 50 marker. There you go. As I get to the curb, that's when I'm braking. I don't 100% remember the apex speed here actually. I can pause it mid-apex, but again, early apex is king here. It's not even cambered, I don't think. It's just as you start to go a bit deep in, since it gets a bit tighter, you're just going to carry on going too deep and lose a bunch of time. So you need an early apex here and just a hug the curb basically. 150 kilometers, that's about 90 miles an hour, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 90 miles per hour here. Maybe, nah, it's around 85 to 90 miles an hour. That's all I remember. As I get towards the exit of this curve, that's when you'll see me pick up the throttle again. As soon as I've straightened up, that's when I'm going to start to lift off again. All I need to do is lift. This car has very good engine braking, and it slows down very quickly. And you want to exit this corner in 4th. I believe I took this corner about 100 miles per hour. This corner coming up, keep it in 4th. It's quicker to keep it in 4th, but here I broke halfway between the start of this grass and the start of this curb. I broke directly halfway between the two. I'm going to downshift 2nd, and the minimum apex speed is around 80 miles per hour here. Exit 3rd. Make sure to turn early here. It's much better to turn early than late, because if you turn late, you're just going to understeer right. Try not to clip too much of the inside curb, because it can unsettle the car as well. This bit's easy flat. Easy flat. For this last corner, we've just gone past the 150, the 100 markers here. I'm braking directly in between the two, so I'm braking at 125 meters. So any second, I just start to lift now. And as you can see, I'm basically directly in between the 100 marker and the 150 marker in the bumper cam view anyway. So this is where I start to brake. It is important to try clip the first apex here, but try not to touch the red part of the curb, like the big red part of the curb, because that can unsettle the car. And from my experience, it slows it down anyway. So as you start straightening, go a little bit on the throttle. By the time you get towards the entry of this yellow curb here, that's when I start to turn in and lift. I tap the brakes as well, and exiting 3rd, this corner I was taking about 43 miles per hour from memory. Again, 78% throttle, all the way to the line, and that's a 150.3. So hopefully that is a good dry lap preference for you guys. In terms of conditions, I put it on equal conditions. I put it on early morning, SO1. Because we don't know what the qualifying conditions will be, but I just don't see it being rain, because that can advantage the driver finishing a lap last. So I reckon the qualifying is going to be in a dry, and I just put it on equal because we don't know what the wind will be, we don't know what the temperature will be. I believe this was 15 degrees Celsius anyway. But without further ado, I'm going to now show you 2 laps in the rain. So one is going to be with the racing line on, one's going to be with me not using the racing line. So hopefully this will help you guys out. So I'll see you in the next clip, guys. Cheers. Okay guys, so I'm going to be showing you 2 wet laps. One of them's going to be with me using the racing line, and one of them's going to be with me with the racing line as just still on, but with me not using the racing line. Just so that you can see the grip difference between using the racing line and not using the racing line. We'll see which one is which one is quicker throughout their lap. So this first lap I'm going to be using the racing line, and as you can see, I had a lot of oopsie in turn 1 already, so I'm already having a bench on this lap, and I've only just done 1 corner so far. But as you can see, I'm off to brake early and I'm not able to carry much speed into the corners. In fact, every time I'm using the racing line, it just wants me to understeer wide. Which is why I would recommend not to use the racing line in general in wet conditions, because the racing line in the wet conditions is a lot of a slippier surface compared to not using the racing line. So that's why when you see some people drive in the wet conditions, you tend to see them take very unusual and conventional racing lines. That way it's just that they don't use the racing line, since there's a lot more grip available when not using the racing line. As you can see here, so much oversteer, and I've only got 50 to 60 foot throttle. Now on the next lap you'll be able to see I have a lot more throttle applied and have a much easier time going around the corner. But you'll see next lap the grip difference. But as you can see, I'm having a massive adventure on this lap, and that's just because I'm using the racing line. It's a really slippery surface. As you can see, it still wants to understeer right. I'm still having to be extremely careful for the first lap position. I'm still getting a lot of wheel spin on the exits of the corner, especially in top gear like that. A lot of oversteer. As you can see, I'm always understeering off the track, and into last corner I'm having to brake out like 170 meters just to make this corner. And on top of that, look for apex speed, 34 miles per hour. That's very slow. And look at the throttle, only 50%, and I'm still wheel spinning. That is how slow using the racing line is. So as you can see with the lap time, it's a 2 minute 13.4. Now let's compare it to the lap without using the racing line. As you can see, I did upshift to fourth. I did find out later that staying in third was actually quicker and just managing the throttle, which is why on my detailed lap I'm going to be showing you lap 8 instead of lap 6, since it's a better lap and a more complete lap. But as you can see, a lot less of an adventure so far, except the exit very rude, where I have too much curb and a bit too much steering angle. So just be careful with your steering when you go over the curb, especially if you overreach from like on. As you can see here, I can brake a lot later. I couldn't carry as much speed, but that's because I went a bit deep into this corner. But here, a lot more speed carried and a lot of an easy time on the exit, as you can see here. Here I'm also able to brake a lot later. I'm able to carry a lot more speed around this corner. A lot of an easy time on the exits. As you can see from my throttle input, I can take a lot more of an exit speed on most exits. Here, not really, because I'm still on the racing line, but there's nowhere else for me to go. But look at the difference in the throttle application. Just watch. 100% throttle. That is the amount of grip difference between not using the racing line and using the racing line. That's why I am explaining to you why you want to avoid the racing line at all costs. It's just there's a couple of reasons why. So you have a lot more grip, you can brake a lot later, you can get on the throttle earlier and a lot more aggressively, and it's just a lot more consistent. So if you were to use the racing line, you just experience so much more oversteer that you're more likely going to crash using the racing line than not using the racing line. But I'm going to end the commentary back on first now. I'm going to go into the detailed lap of my fastest wet lap. But what lap time you're going to be seeing now is a 209.4, I believe. It's about 4 seconds a lap quicker. But anyway, see you in the next clip, guys. Okay, so hopefully with my commentary in the background, it helps you understand why not to use the racing line, etc. But I'm now going to show you a wet reference lap. I'm not sure if inters or wets is going to be better for the race, because in the TT conditions, the wets will definitely be better after lap 4 until the end of lap 15, just because there's no drying effect since you're by yourself. But with 16 cars on the grid, that could favour the inters, because the leaders could be drying the track out for you, and you may leave a little bit of a dry patch behind. So I'm not 100% sure what the actual best race tyre for this will be, but I practice on the inters just to show you how effective driving off the racing line is, because obviously the inters has less grip, so when you're on the racing line you have even less grip, so the difference in the pace is more drastic. But anyway, let's get into the lap. So first corner, in the full wet conditions, I'm braking about a car length before this 100 marker here. Maybe a car length and a half. So I'd say 110 meters here. So as you can see, I am off the racing line. I'm going to be braking in a straight line completely. I'm going to go a little bit deep in, just so that I'm off the racing line as I get to rotate the car. And the minimum apex speed I'm taking for this corner is about 32-33 miles per hour. Again, important, exit off the racing line, so stay in the middle of the track here. And watch the throttle, be extremely careful. It reaches flat, but I will say, don't touch your inside curves, because that can unsettle the car. If you are going to go over curves, be extremely careful with your steering angle. So if you put a lot of steering angle in, the car will spin. So just be very careful. This next corner in the rain, I'm braking at the beginning of this curb here. There you go, I've just started to lift now. So beginning of this curb, that's when I start to brake. Again, off the racing line. I'm going to go straight. And I'm going to go a little bit deep in just so I'm off the racing line, but I'm going to cut to the right, so it gives me a good angle to attack the next part of the chicane, and I'm off the racing line for longer, so I can carry more speed into the corner. For this corner, I believe the first part, I was taking about 70 miles per hour from memory. No, that's not 70 miles per hour, that's 60 miles per hour. Was it 60? Yeah, it was high 50s. I think you could take it 60, especially with a wider apex. Here, stay wide, cut back in, stay as far to the left as possible. Again, be 60% throttle here, be extremely careful. For this corner, it's taking about 85 miles per hour from memory, but again, be a car width off the inside curb here. And exit off, get all over this curb here. You're off the racing line here, so get all over this curb, but watch the throttle. You'll see I'm saying 80 to 90% throttle the whole time here. Then here I'm braking just, I'd say a car length before this curb here. You're going to want to go a bit deep in because you want to be off the racing line as before. You have to brake on the racing line here, but you're not on the racing line for too long. But it is better to brake on the racing line than to be on the right, having to go over the racing line at some point, go deep in and then make the corner. It's much faster just to brake on the racing line here. Here you could carry about 55 miles per hour minimum apex speed from memory. Take it wide and then cut over to right as quickly as possible. And I already brake, but I'm braking halfway between the two red barriers here. I'm braking basically halfway between the two here. Minimum apex speed for this corner was about 80 miles per hour from memory, and I'm going to be exiting in fourth here. And again, always a car width off the inside curb here. And you're going to exit all the way on the right curb because you're off the racing line for as long as possible while still taking good speed in this corner. Watch the throttle, I'll still get about 90% for most of that. Here I'm braking at the 50 marker exactly. Try not go too much on this outside curb, just because it can unsettle the car and oversteer the car. But again, go a bit wider into this corner. Don't actually remember the first apex speed. I think it's about 120 miles per hour, I want to say. 115, 120? I think it was 115 miles per hour. Car width off the inside again. Or no, 150, no, 105 miles per hour, sorry. Not 115, 105. Exit fifth, it's a lot more stable, and it might even be faster as well. Here, I'm braking, I'm braking about 80 meters here. Maybe 75. I'm braking 75 meters, I'd say. So halfway between 100 and the 50 marker again. I'm going to be braking in a straight line and again going deep in. Again, I'm halfway between the left and right hand side because I don't want to be on a racing line. Minimum apex speed was about 80 miles, not 80, was it 80? 75 miles per hour from memory. Yeah, I'd say 75 to 80 miles per hour. I think anywhere in that range you're looking good. Be careful as you pick up the throttle, since you're going to have to go over the racing line at some point. That's why I have a little bit of oversteer. But again, go a little bit deep in here because you don't want to be on the racing line. Exit all the way to the right, so you're off the racing line. Then cut off to the left as you start to brake. And I'm braking about here. I'd say about a car length after the start of this grass here. That's when I decide to brake. And again, go over to the left and go deep into the corner because you want to be off the racing line as always. Minimum apex speed for this corner I want to say was 65 miles per hour. 110 kilometers. Yeah, I'd say around 65 miles per hour. Exiting fourth is a lot more stable. Get all the way over to the outside curb, and again you want to be about 70% throttle here just to keep it stable. I have a little bit of an oversteer moment as I leave the curb. That's because I had a lot of wheel spin picking up throttle initially, and I couldn't get rid of it, otherwise I'd have lost too much time. But here, I'm not sure if it's better in fourth or fifth. I think it's better in fourth, but it's obviously a lot safer in fifth. So do what feels better for you. But for top players, I imagine will be going in fourth gear in this corner. Make sure you're very wide here as well, because if you do touch a racing line in the middle of fourth gear, you're going to have a ton of oversteer and wheel spin. So be extremely careful in this corner. Again, 80% throttle as I go over the racing line. Stay far to the right here, because you want to be off the racing line. This is still easy flat even on inters. And for this last corner, I'm braking at about half a car for 150 marker, as you can see now. I'm going to be braking the straight line, and you want to basically hug the inside curb on the first part of the chicane, just so that you end up the first part of the chicane towards the right, so you're off the racing line, and you can take a lot of speed into the last part of the chicane and carry good momentum off the corner as well. This corner, I believe I was about 35 miles per hour from memory. Stay far to the right, and then as you basically go past the inside curve, that's when you start turning to the left. Try get towards the inside curve and stay as far to the left as possible. And again, look at the throttle. I upshift early to fourth, just to have less wheel spin. You can exit in fourth if you want to, but again, if you're going to exit in fourth, be prepared to lift off the throttle slightly, because it can still wheel spin even in fourth. But hopefully that is a good wet lap preference for you guys. But now I'm going to show you the first 8 or so laps in the time trial session with commentary in the background. So cheers guys, and I'll see you in the next clip. Thank you. Okay guys, so now I'm going to show you, like I already just mentioned, the first 8 laps or so in the TT conditions. So every now and then you'll see the weather radar on my screen, and as you will see, I'd say the first 3-4 laps is definitely into territory, since you are basically covered in class 1 rain. I believe you get class 2 rain at the north of the track on the start of lap 4, but it doesn't get pretty wet until the end of lap 4 when the class 3 rain starts to hit. Which is why for the first 4 laps the inters will definitely be the better race time. But after lap 4, at least in the TT conditions, the full wet is better. Now to answer the question on what tire to start the race on, I honestly don't know, because in the TT conditions I would say the full wet is definitely faster over the 15 laps. That's however with yourself on the track. When there's 15 other people on the track, however, especially during the class 1 rain period, the drivers of the cars going over doing laps and laps and laps around the track may start to dry up the racing line a bit, and that's when the inters could come into play. So that's why I can't really answer whether inters or the wets is the better tyre. Now my guess for this is Pirelli made the decision to have this sort of weather pattern to make both the inters and the wet tyres viable. That is my educated guess. I would imagine, just because you're so much quicker at the start of the race, that the inters is probably the better race tyre, at least from the front. However, if you start last and everyone else starts inters, it may be worth a gamble to go on the wets. Just take the losses in the first 4 laps or so. Since you're going to be slower, you're less likely going to get into battles, since, well, the people on the inters will be a couple of seconds, around 3 seconds a lap quicker at the start of the race, or the first 3 or so laps. By the time you get towards the second half of lap 4, the inters advantage starts to fade away and it comes into the wet tyre territory. That's why I'm not really sure how to answer whether the wets or the inters will be better for this race. all I can really say with certainty, and it's not even with certainty, but all I can say is for qualifying for this race, like I already mentioned, I think will be in the drive. So if it was to be in a race, it could advantage the people that finish the laps off last. And in an official season especially, I don't think personally would want to make a move where they want to give advantages to the people that finish the lap last, because it can just create a whole mess with people trying to slow down enough to start their final lap with 1 second left, with about 10 other cars trying to do the same, and it could create a massive mess. So that's why I think qualifying will be in dry, and that's why I've made a dry lap reference, just in case you forgot already. So we don't know what the drying condition, the qualifying conditions will be in terms of the wind direction and the temperature and the time of day. However, I put it on early morning to get it to 15 degrees Celsius. That because I remember from GTWS manufacturers, I believe the on-track temperature was around 13 degrees Celsius. So I put it on 15 just to get it at least sort of similar to what it was in the manufacturers. That way, if the qualifying is similar to the conditions of the manual, then I can get it as close to those conditions as possible with the early morning setting. And I put it on SO1 just because I did, to be honest. I don't really have any other reason. Just so that I could see more, I suppose. And you can just see the braking references and that more clearly, since it's bright. And the track is quite bright on the screen, so you can clearly see the braking references I was using, etc. So that is probably why I kept on SO1. But with the wind, like I already mentioned, I have no idea what sort of wind they'll put in qualifying. That's if they do put wind. That's not even a certainty. But anyway, back to this. So as you can see, the inter sort of pace, first lap was a 1:57.5. However, you would have seen I've made quite a few mistakes on some corners in S2. The second lap I did a 1:56.5. As you can see, my record is currently a 1:56.3. To be honest, I've not put much time into TT here, and I reckon there's quite a bit of time in that. But I reckon the top drivers will be looking to do probably mid-55s on the second lap here. But for reference, on the wets, I did a little quick run on the wets as well, just to compare quickly. But on the wets, the first laps I was doing was low to mid 1:59. So I would say for the first 3 or 4 so laps, but the inters I would say is a good 3 seconds lap quick run average, I would say, in my opinion. And it's probably an easier tyre to get the max out of, because on the wets you will have to bottomise a lot more. And if anything, you may open up the tyre a bit, and you may have touch of tyre. Even though it's time for tyre, since the wets will be on a drying track, it may get a little bit tighter, since the track will be dry, it'll just be burning the wet tyres up, since you're going to be able to carry a lot of speed through the corners on the wets, which will just burn the wets. Which is another reason why I'm not really sure the best race tyre will be for this race. But anyway, as you can see now, I've gone a bit deep here, and as you can see the moisture bar on the left next to my tyres, the rain has started to pick up here, and this is where the wets will start to gain an advantage. I would say at the moment the int is still slightly better. I'd say the wets start to get better once it gets above 60% wet, so literally just below the second bar of the moisture bar. That's when I would say the wets start to get better than the inters, and that's also a good indication of when not to use the racing line as much as possible, because that's when you start to lose grip using the racing line under braking, under throttle, and at times you may still want to use the racing line during mid-apexes and that, but I'd say try to stay away from the racing line as much as possible from that point on. Other than that, there's not really much else to say. All I'll say is it starts to get very wet towards the end of lap 4, and yeah, I'm basically going to stop the commentary back now. There's about 10 minutes left, because I'm going to show you up to the end of lap 8. But before I go, I'd like to say, first of all, and as always, thanks for amazing support recently, whether that's through the videos or the live streams. For the manufacturer series, when I did the guides, I did get good support and views for those videos, so thank you for that. I will be doing the same for every nations round as well, don't you worry. And I will stream all the nations races again, unless I feel like I don't want to, and there may be a round where I'm not feeling like it, but we'll see when the time comes. I do plan to stream them all though, so feel free to check them out. And in case you don't want to miss it, then I would recommend subscribing to the channel and putting the notifications on so that you don't miss the videos. Talking about videos, I would appreciate a like and a sub if you found this video helpful. Any questions, put them in the comments. I'll answer to the best of my ability as always. And I was using +5 brake balance. I'm not sure if that is the best brake balance for it. It's just that's the brake balance I tend to use the most, because I'd like to have a little bit over here after a little brake, and as much rotation as possible, just so that I can load as much speed during the corners as possible, since I would have rotated nice into the corner as I release the brakes. So like I already mentioned, I would appreciate a like and something helpful and enjoyable. Any questions like I've already said, put in the comments, I'll answer the best of my ability, and best of luck in this race, guys. I would also, don't forget, height for video as well. I don't really know what height in this video does, but try it out. I want to see what the height feature does, so if you could, guys, I would appreciate a height. Just see what it does, to be honest. I don't honestly know what it does. Maybe it pushes the video out more. I honestly don't know. But I'm interested. But anyway, thank you guys. Enjoy the last few laps of this video, and good luck in this race if you're doing it. If not, feel free to watch my racing stream on Wednesday at 5 PM UK time. And yeah, see you later, guys, and goodbye.